You're listening to Robin Flan's Drummer Interviews, the #1 drum radio show in all of Los Angeles,
the world, the galaxy.
This segment is sponsored by ePad Practice Pads, the only drum practice pad made with Enduraflex playing surface. And I'm Robin Flans with Robin Flans Drummer Interviews. I'm sitting here with my co-host and producer, Ed Eblin.
And I'm a huge fan of our featured guest today. Let me just put that out there.
Me too! I am so over the moon that today's guest is Russ Kunkel. I'm not just excited because he's a phenomenal drummer and so appreciated by players, producers, and artists, but I just feel so privileged that he's taken the time out of his busy schedule, because he's laughing, but because I don't think he does this kind of stuff that much, and I just feel so honored.
Well, Robin, first of all, calm down.
Oh, I can't. I'm so excited.
Boy, if we could just bottle that calmness.
Listen, I just have to tell you to start off that I am completely honored to do this with you, and it's not that I don't do them very often. I just, when I have the opportunity to do an interview like this with someone as important as you are to all the drummers in the world, it's a pleasure for me and a real privilege. So I'm really happy to be doing this with you, Robin. Thank you so much for thinking of me.
Oh my God. Okay, well now, calm down. No, now I'm on the now
she's blushing.
Now I'm on the ceiling. But okay, all right. Let's just get to it.
And Ed, it's nice that you're there. It's nice to have you there as well.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you.
So, the list of records you've done is crazy, and so what is so profound to me is the multiple recordings you've done for so many artists, and so many of my favorite artists, for instance, like Linda Ronstadt and Jackson Browne and Carole King and Carly Simon and James Taylor, and that's just that's just scratching the surface. So when you're a repeat offender, what that means is you're giving them the goods. So where did you learn the goods, and what are the studio goods? And I know that's a loaded question. That's a lot of question.
Well, I'm not so sure. I think being a repeat offender is probably more due to making fewer mistakes than not.
Okay, and so where did you learn all that? Tell me where.
You know what? I think it was a learn as you go endeavor for me. I mean, if you just stop and think for a second about the people that you just mentioned, which is a handful of very important poets of our time. That I started working with all of them in my teens, and we were all just growing up then, all of us, and so I got to learn about playing with singer-songwriters and learn how to play a song while they were creating them at the same time. So, I was just fortunate. I was just fortunate to be able to work with that kind of cast of characters who just so happened to be, some of the major poets of our time. And
okay,
I just looked at it, Robin, as being incredibly fortunate.
Okay. Okay. I'm not buying it. Okay. I'm not letting you off the hook so easily, Russ.
Well, that's the truth. I mean, there's no way to study for that. I didn't, prior to being able to doing that work, I was, just playing in rock and roll bands in Long Beach, California, playing surf music and playing blues, so I learned how to do that by being with them and being somehow sensitive to, what they were doing.
So what was
but mostly fortunate.
What was the break? What got that started?
Very simple. A man named Peter Asher.
Right.
In a word.
Yeah.
I was playing at the time with a wonderful artist named John Stewart, who replaced Dave Gard in the Kingston Trio, but it went on to write amazing songs like Daydream Believer. And he was just a wonderful friend, and I was working with him. It was one of my first gigs up in Hollywood, really. And there was a fiddle player in the band named Chris Darrow.
Who, by the way, Facebook messaged me because he saw that I was doing this, and he said to send his regards.
Well, right back at him.
Yeah.
Because he is really responsible for everything that kind of, there's always pivotal people in everyone's life who is there to give a kind word or make a recommendation at a time that sets you on a path that ends up going a place that you never expected. And Chris was that person for me.
Wow.
He had been friends with Peter Asher for quite some time. And when Peter was coming over to the United States with his new artist that he had signed to Apple Records, James Taylor, he was looking for musicians to play on a new record because James was going to make his first album for Warner Brothers. And he was specifically looking for a drummer. And Chris said, well, we're playing with a guy right now who's really good, and we're rehearsing tonight if you want to come down and see him play. And long story short, Peter came to the rehearsal, listened to me play with John, and hired me to play on the Sweet Baby James album on that moment.
Wow.
And that started a long friendship, working friendship, and personal friendship with Peter through many, many, many years, and goes on today still, and lots of different artists and lots of different projects. So I owe so much to that man, and he's a dear friend and a visionary beyond what people usually give him credit for.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Wow. Just the people that touch your lives, and the people that you know, and the connections, and the...
It's totally true.
Yeah.
It's totally true. I mean, and you have to, and it's due to Chris. I mean, Chris is the one that recommended me. He could have recommended anybody, but he put my name in the hat, and the rest is kind of history. So I owe him a lot.
Wow, very cool. So why do you think that you were the right? I mean, these are artists that. Okay, well, then why don't we start with some of the James Taylor classics? I won't belabor the whys, because you're not going to give that to me.
I don't know if there's a real answer to that, Robin. I'm not trying to skirt the question at all.
Maybe we'll figure it out as we go along. We actually had a question from one of the listeners, Brad Byers, who wants to know, was it your decision, the producers, or the artists to play Brushes on Fire and Rain? How did that come?
Well, it's an interesting story, and I'll try to capsulize it if I can so it makes sense. The first rehearsal that I had with James Taylor for rehearsing the songs for Sweet Baby James was in Peter Asher's living room at a house that he just rented in Los Angeles, but it had no furniture. The only thing in the living room was a piano. And Carole King was playing piano, and James was sitting playing acoustic guitar, and I think Danny Korchmar was there and probably playing acoustic guitar as well. No bass player, but I had to set up my drums, and so there was no monitors, no PA, nothing. So to rehearse the songs, I really couldn't play sticks. So I pretty much did the rehearsals with brushes, but playing parts like I would play it with sticks. So I could hear them, because if I played, I wouldn't be able to hear the acoustic guitar and the piano very well.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through the rehearsals, and when we got to the studio and started recording the songs, I knew that I was going to play, some of the songs I was going to play with sticks, and I did. We recorded them that way. But when it came to Fire and Rain, I think as I recall it, I asked Peter, I said, look, should I should I try Sticks on Fire and Rain, or should I said, I kind of like the way it feels on the brushes, and should I just stay with that? And he said, yeah, stay with it. And that was it. So I just, it was just kind of a decision that was based on the fact that it really worked in the rehearsal, which was a bit of serendipity, as it turns out, that I couldn't play loud. So, and it just ended up being something that really worked for the song. Danny Korchmar told me something the other day, because I was just down in L.A., spending some time with Danny, writing some songs and stuff, and he said that I didn't even know this, he said that they recorded Fire and Rain, a different version of it, way back when, I guess for one of the Apple records or something, and it was Danny's band. I don't know if it was Joe Mama or it was with some other people, but it was Joel O'Brien on drums, and they played a kind of full out version of it. And Danny goes, it just didn't work.
Wow.
He said there was nothing wrong with it. He said he said what
with
happened
Sticks
on the record was magic. So.
Yeah, with Sticks, you're saying, with not with brushes, with full on.
Yeah, the other version was with Sticks, and it was like pretty straight ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Huh.
And I think with that song, I think that because, I have never heard another song ever written anything like Fire and Rain. The spaces in between the lyrics, and just the way the song cycle works. There's never been another song like that. It was it's a really unique piece of material. Mm-hmm. And so I think with the brushes being powerful but not overpowering, I think it suited the tension in the song. There's a lot of tension in that song, a lot of lyrical tension and a lot of musical tension. And I think that it was a match made in heaven. It just kind of worked.
How much did you know about recording before that?
Well, I knew quite a bit, actually. When I was growing up in Long Beach, there was somebody I have to say is one of my mentors who managed kind of some of the early bands I was in. His name was Dale Davis. And he had a studio in Long Beach called Second Street Sound, and I kind of cut my teeth recording stuff in his studio and learning about recording down there. Very basic stuff. Started out recording mono.
Oh, God.
And going 2-track to 2-track, so. And one of my early bands that I was in called Things to Come, he produced our records. And so I had a basic knowledge of engineering and stuff like that.
Well, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that does make sense. So tell me about You've Got a Friend.
Well, it's, I think James has mentioned that You've Got a Friend was Carole's answer to some of the parts of Fire and Rain.
Right.
And the relationship that James and Carole developed as friends and as artists, they just fed on each other, and You've Got a Friend may be one of the most perfectly written songs, and in content and lyric, and hearing that song when she ran it down, you just kind of went, oh my God. All I got to do is make sure I don't screw it up.
So the words
stay out of the way.
The words dictated for you.
Yeah, but she put it together with such beautiful chords. Mm-hmm. It was a match made in heaven, really.
So the part for you came.
Like I said, just don't mess it up. Just put down what's needed and wanted, and don't overthink it. And I think I'm trying to remember now. I think I might have added a conga part on top of that. Yeah,
that's what I was.
It was really, really basic and very simple.
I think
here's the thing about Carole. People ask me about Carole all the time. Carole King knows exactly what she wants, and she's very specific about it in the most beautiful, loving way. If you're doing something and it's all working, you'll never hear her say a word. If there's something that you're doing that isn't quite what she envisioned or making her feel one way or the other, she'll very nicely say, could you try this? But she knows exactly what she wants. It's not, to note one. And that's one of the beautiful things about her. She is so complete.
Now,
to that.
Did you do both? You did both versions.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe so. There's a lot. There's a lot on that list, Robin.
So is your memory failing? Okay, all right.
No, it's just you can't commit it all to memory.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I think, and there was. I went back. Yeah, there was a lot on the list, and I couldn't listen to all of it in preparation for this. But I actually did go back and I listened to the James "You've Got a Friend," and there is a lot of conga in that.
Yeah.
In that version. And you played that.
I think that might have been. I know on one song, Danny Korchmar and I both played congas. We just played two different drums at the same time, which was a lot of fun.
Ah.
Whichever one has a thick kind of sound on the conga part, that's Danny and I playing. Which was fun to do. We did some crazy stuff back then.
So you did how much with James back then? You did, and you went out with him on the road.
Oh yeah, I did every record with him. I think up to Working Man.
Okay.
And then at that point, I think Rick Marotta started playing with him, and I forget who. After Carlos Vega played with him.
Right.
And now the amazing Steve Gadd is James' drummer.
Yes.
It's interesting. Just this last weekend, I got to do some things talking about James that really was fun for me. I was in. I had a show with Lyle Lovett in Las Vegas at the Mandalay Bay on Friday night. And James had called me earlier in the week and asked me if I could do a one-off with him in St. Louis, a charity for the Variety Foundation. This children's, they put together money and stuff for needy children in St. Louis. And I was able to do it, and I went, and it was Dean Parks on guitar and Jim Cox on piano, and myself, a bass player that James brought in from Massachusetts, and Kim, his wife, and Kate Markowitz and James, and I played percussion.
Oh, neat.
And it was absolute. I played a lot of cajon and a lot of congas and stuff like that, and it was an absolute blast.
How neat
to come back and play all those songs with him, and to the extent he enjoyed it so much, he wants to do more of it. So it looks like I might have a chance to do something special with him again.
Very cool.
Look forward to that.
You guys went through a rough patch for a while, yes?
Well, I guess you could say that. But in the end, I think that our intellect and our desire to be friends and grow, we grew through that period of time, and we are still amazing friends. And we were young.
Yeah.
At that time, so. But yeah, it was a good learning experience.
And since when have you guys gotten back in touch in a good place?
Oh well, yeah. In 2010, we did the Troubadour reunion tour with the original band with Carole and James.
Right.
And we had everyone wished that could have gone on forever. That was so much fun.
Yeah, I knew you were.
We've never been out of contact or out of touch in any way. It's James, like any artist. Artists can when you're reinventing yourself and you're someone as prolific as James or Carole or Joni or Jackson or anybody. When you're going to change, there's only so many things you can change, right? You're going to have to do the songs that your audience wants to hear, the songs that brought you to where you are. You're not going to not do those songs.
Of course.
But when you change, one of the things you can change your staging, you can change your sound engineers, you can change your clothes. You can do all that, but there's some things you can't change. But one of the things you can change, which definitely makes your show different, is you can change the musicians. You can change the kind of music that backs you up. And everyone has done that. And James made changes in his band for reasons that he thought were important, and I agreed with him, everything that he did. And because I'm so lucky, I got to work with him during a period of time when there was a lot of great stuff that happened. Of course. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. And, I went on to do other things and grow in other ways and reinvent myself as a producer and a songwriter.
Sure.
And he went on his way and developed different ways of presenting his music that suited him. And that's how you grow. So I've never, when I wasn't working with him, I was so okay with it.
Sure.
Because, that's where growth comes from.
Sure. But it's nice.
And now I have a chance to maybe work with him again. So
that's so
better.
great.
So,
that's great.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So we're gonna take a moment out for a quick word from our sponsor, who happens to be ePad, and I'm gonna let Ed take the reins.
Well, there you have it. Yeah, I just wanted to tell everybody, especially for you drummers that are listening to this interview with Russ Kunkel today, that ePad sponsors this program, and we love doing it for a couple of great reasons. Number one, Robin has such a history in the drum industry, and is not a better show to promote your products on, and this is why I do it. And the ePad itself is a proprietary practice pad made out of Enduroflex. We're the only ones that make it with this particular material. The response is generally much slower, not much like a pillow in essence, but certainly more than a typical practice pad. And I sort of got this idea from the years of studying Buddy Rich and watching these guys that had this incredible technique, and they would always practice on these surfaces that were generally responding slower. That's where the concept came, and since we've done that, we've had a lot of sort of ePad converts, not convicts. I can see you looking at me like I'm saying something illegal here. But we'd love for you, or I specifically would love for you to check out the products. You can do that at epadco.com, and you can get more sort of a technical sort of information about the products. But we offer everything from the tabletop round pads, 9-inch and 12s, that can sit in a snare drum or in the basket itself. Very quiet to play on, but gives quite a workout, and in much less the time that you would take playing on a pad with a lot of rebound. And we also have knee pads. And again, our thing is the Enduroflex, which is much more of a feel of a drum. It's a slower response, but I think the feel is truer than a real super bouncy practice pad. So I guess I'll give it back to you, Rob. Thanks for that. And
definitely check those out. And
yes.
That's epadco.com. And I want everybody out there to know that if you'd like your product advertised on our show, please contact us at info@robinflansdrummerinterviews.com, and we'll be happy to send you out information on our very affordable rates. And we are back with
Russ,
the most important product here, Russ Kunkel. And
wow.
Yeah, and I want to talk about female vocalists because
just before we do that, can I say something about the ePad that's it's such a coincidence? Do you mind?
Oh,
no,
go ahead.
Okay, all right. Backstory. So I'm a player that is pretty much self-taught, right? No traditional training on drums, and I've played all these years just learning whatever technique I can as I went. And it's really interesting when people and I'm not the person that would sit down and practice 2 hours a day. I played a lot. I was in bands a lot, so I was always playing, but practicing was never something that I did all the time. It's interesting because most people, when they're starting out on an instrument in the beginning of their career, that's when they practice and they really work on it. And then they develop into something and they get a good gig and then they move on. Well, my career has been actually the opposite. I started out being able to work, and being self-taught. And now, in these later years, I am fascinated by practice. And people have asked me all through my career, how do you warm up? And the way that I always warmed up was on a pillow. I would do single stroke rolls on a pillow. And I remember Levon Helm asking me in 1974 when I was on a Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young tour, and it was the band, Jesse Cole and Young, Joni Mitchell, the LA Express, and Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. And he said, "How do you warm up?" Because what do you do? And I said, "I just warm up on a throw pillow." Until my forearms are kind of sore, and then I keep trying to do it till they're not sore. So then I'm loosening up instead of tightening up. So this concept of your EPAD is exactly what I kind of did naturally when I was growing up.
Huh.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's a phenomenal concept.
Well, thank you.
So
and
I'm really interested in trying it out.
I'm glad to hear that, because actually it was Eddie Shaughnessy and I had this conversation years ago, and I would ask him, because I used to also have a little drum rehearsal facility, and he once told me that in the green room on the Carson show he would just take a bath towel and fold it into thirds, because it gave no rebound. Of course, it was quiet, but it warmed him up faster than, which the concept always sort of made sense to me. But I appreciate that, Russ, and I'm not shameless plugging the product here, but I'd be happy gratis, no anything, just to send you some stuff to check out. I'm not looking for you to.
Please do.
Okay.
Please do.
Well,
I will definitely use it, no doubt.
Okay. Well, we'll get the info from Rob. But thank you. Wow. What a. I feel like a star now. Thank you for that.
No, there's.
Well,
I'll tell you what. Just a little secret. A lot of really big names use the product on the sly because they're beholden to other manufacturers, and they can't say that they use EPAD. So it's everybody's little secret weapon.
We like to call ourselves the mistress of the practice pad industry. I think that's
and it's really unfortunate for Ed. It's really a drag, but it's the truth, and it's kind of a bummer because he's a small company, and that's all I'm going to say.
I'm taking the high road. Russ Kunkel likes my product. Yay! I'm good with that.
So anyway, we're on to female vocalists, and there might be something different that goes into playing behind a female voice. I'm going to ask you if that's true.
I don't see any difference.
Okay, all right.
Like I mentioned in the case of Carole, that's a female voice. Carole is so interesting. I mean, the bulk of her writing was done with Jerry Goffin, and Jerry was the lyricist, and Carole wrote most of the music. But during those years, right before Tapestry, Carole was finding her own voice. And then she went on to, I guess if you wanted to look at You've Got a Friend as a pinnacle, look at the song and the lyrics that she wrote, that she put together and delivered in that song.
Right.
So that's what I meant by, I was able to be there and work with them when that was happening, when those things converged, so it was so apparent, what was needed and wanted, and it actually, in a lot of ways, it was unbelievably easy, But the difference between female working with a female vocalist as opposed to a male vocalist,
okay, all right,
not much difference for me.
What about do you recall coming up with the part for You're So Far Away?
Oh, God, I would have to listen to it.
Well, I listened to it, and I really loved it. I think there's percussion on that.
Well, I'm really going to have to, I know I sound like I'm repeating myself, but when it comes to Carole King, she's an arranger. Mm-hmm. So, she can conduct her string sections. She knows what she wants. So I would have to say whatever I played on So Far Away was,
probably
was
her
what she
idea,
wanted.
right?
So,
Okay,
yeah.
so she was,
or it was co-signed, you know,
right.
so.
She was the idea person. Okay, now what about? Okay, so you tell me favorite Carly
But
Simon.
on Tapestry,
Okay.
I didn't play on every single
I know
song.
that.
Joel-
I know that,
Joel
but
O'Brien played on some of that
I
too,
did check that out. You were on So Far Away.
Yeah.
Favorite Carly Simon tracks.
Pardon?
Favorite Carly Simon tracks.
Oh God. I don't know. Coming Around Again.
Okay, why?
Because it was a great song for a great movie, and we worked on that quite a bit.
What does that mean?
It just was fun to do in the studio.
Mm.
You know, it was a Mike Nichols movie. It was Heartburn,
Mm.
and Carly did the music to the movie. George Massenberg, myself, and Billy Payne were producing the music along with her, and you know, it became a hit. She hadn't had a hit in a while, so, and that came along, and that was that. You know, it was at the beginning of a new time for her.
Mm. Mm.
But there's, I mean, you know, the truth is that, you know, I didn't play on the bulk of Carly's material. I played on some things from time to time.
Right.
Probably the biggest thing that I did with her was to play at her gig when she first came out and played the Troubadour.
Yes.
You know, and she did a show with Cat Stevens out there, and I played live with her out there. So.
Right. Right. God, what a piece of history that was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
I made a terrible mistake during that show. I had been working with James Taylor prior to all of that, and I went up into the dressing room and told her that James Taylor was going to be in the audience, and she almost killed me because it made her completely nervous.
Oh, my God!
I thought she would be elated, right?
Well,
anyway,
she had stage fright.
Oh, completely, yeah. Yeah. I didn't know that at the time. So.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's very funny. Another one of my favorite women, Linda Ronstadt. You did a lot of work with Linda.
I did.
Yes,
I did.
Does anything stick out? Because I should have told you to go listen to some of your work.
I'll have to find the time for that, Rob. You know, I'll tell you what. Linda Ronstadt, I know she's not singing much now, but one of the sweetest, most wonderful people in the world, and probably one of the best female vocalists of all time. She's right up there with the best.
I agree.
And at a time when there was no Melodyne, there was no pitch correction, there was no nothing, she was a powerhouse of a vocalist.
Yep.
And she could interpret a song better than anybody. So I have nothing but respect for Linda.
Now, when you were in the studio with her, what was the dynamic? Was it, I mean, who let you come up with stuff? Who let you, I mean, you already told me about Carole. She was the, no offense made, dictator. Who let you come up?
Not a dictator at all. She knew what she wanted.
Well, that's what I mean.
I mean that in the nicest way. And she would
I know. I was
deliver.
teasing.
She would disseminate that information just with sweetness.
I was teasing. But okay. who let you be, come up with the stuff? I mean, who had the time, the budget, the, gee, what do you want to do here? Attitude.
Okay. Well, with regards to Linda, that's Peter Asher again. And one of the things that Peter did so brilliantly is he knew how to put a great cast together for a song or for an album. And he would stick with it. And so he would get people in the studio that he, trusted, and he let them do what they do best. And so when it worked, he went, we got it, let's go, we're done. When it didn't work, he was patient enough to let it work itself out. You know, we didn't. I think all we had was chord charts for those songs, and we played them enough times that we could memorize them. And you know, whatever idea you came up with, if it worked, it worked. So it was Peter being a great producer.
Right.
You know, and Linda would follow. You know, Linda would be involved. Linda and Peter would decide what songs they would want to do,
Mm-hmm.
and they would decide that together. Then they would pick the keys, and then they would decide which musicians they wanted to have on the dates for certain songs. And then right there, you're 95% there. If you put Kenny Edwards and Andrew Gold and Waddy Wachtel and me together in the studio, you're going to get a great track. And if you substitute Rick Marotta for me, because Rick played on a lot of Linda's records as well, and bring Don Grolnick in, then you have a different sound for
Right.
those songs. And then so that's Peter. Peter has and always will be an amazing producer. He's a visionary. He can put all the pieces together and put the right people in the room and let the magic happen. He knows to stay out of the way. There was one Linda Ronstadt session. This is interesting. You just reminded me of it. We were doing a song for Linda, and sometimes we would cut the tracks and Linda would sing a guide vocal, and sometimes she wouldn't. You know, she might not be there that day.
Mm.
We were doing a track in a studio, and I remember it to this day. It was Billy Payne, myself, I think it might have been Kenny Edwards, might have been Dan Dugmore, and Waddy Wachtel. And we were trying, I forget what song it was, but we were trying to get this song, and we cut it one way. We cut it like a shuffle. We cut it a different way. It was like one of those, every once in a while you come across a song where it's just not giving you anything, you know. And we tried. And finally Peter came on the talkback and he goes, I got nothing. I don't know what to tell you. I got absolutely nothing. If you guys want to stay here, he says, I have nothing to give you. I'm going to go home. If you want to stay here and keep trying to get this track, feel free. And if you do get it and I come back and I like it, I'll give you all production credit on the song. And we stayed and we cut a track and he gave us all production credit on the song.
And you don't remember the song?
The funniest part is I remember when Peter said he was going home. I remember Billy Payne taking his music and just ripping it in half and throwing it on the floor. I'm like, okay, we're done.
You know, one of my favorite albums of hers was Heart Like a Wheel.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was just, to me, that was just the greatest album ever. And I'm just wondering, you know, the creativity. I mean, you're never gonna tell me where you led the magic, because you were just this humble kind of guy and really becoming a pain in my ass. I
Glad I'm not the only one who gets called that.
Robin, you're just used to being around aggro people.
Well, I love you, but I can see that I want you to tell me where you're going to give the credit to Peter Asher, you're going to give the credit to anybody else, but I want you for a minute to take the credit on something. Can you do that? Will you please do that?
Well, I'll take credit for counting a song off.
Oh God! Oh no!
It's that stuff in betweens you're looking for.
I'm looking for your.
Well, why don't you tell me what you think it is?
Well, I mean, you know, I guess I wanted you to either, you know, well, I know that on these songs, so many of these songs that you did on James Taylor or any of these people that I've mentioned, that some of these beautiful drum tracks that resonate and speak volumes had to be your idea, that they weren't told to you by a producer.
No, of course.
And that's what I'm looking for. I
would say, no, my parts were never written out. I came up with the parts. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, they were the fact that they made it onto the record meant that they were okay with the artist.
Okay, well, of course.
Yeah.
Well, that's a given.
And I'm really going to try to answer your question for you, because I really don't want you to be angry.
I'm not angry.
I think that somehow, and I don't know how, but I think I have been able to, over the course of my career, be sensitive and have a lot of simpatico with the song and the person that's delivering the song. And because it's a songwriting is a very personal experience, and people that write the songs have a lot of meaning to them. And so somehow I was able to get inside that on the fly and play stuff that never hurt anything but enhanced it. In other words, I was able to somehow, more times than not, play what they wanted to hear or what they thought they wanted to hear, and that made them comfortable. And then so they wouldn't have to worry about that. I was able to play parts. Drums are a very difficult thing because they're loud. They dictate lots of things. They dictate tempo. They dictate volume. They all kinds of stuff like that. So sometimes you have to know when that's needed and when that's not needed. So
right.
I think that I was fortunate enough to be able to fit in between the cracks and play parts and come up with parts that supported and made the artist happy,
right.
so that they felt comfortable, and then they could do their job. They weren't listening to me going, God, I wish he wasn't playing that. They were listening to me going, that's perfect. Now I can do my job.
Right.
Does that make any sense?
Yes, of course. And you obviously did it profoundly, wisely, and, like you said, sensitively, and just perfectly, beautifully. Yeah,
And if there was anything conscious about that, it was that I wanted to know about the lyrics to the song.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to see the lyrics. I really wanted to kind of feel, what's the artist trying to say here? What's this emotion? What's this event?
Right.
What part of their life is this?
Right.
And then try to play things that fit. But I also, if there was anything conscious, I really didn't want to play things that I'd played before. Like if a lesson that I learned with Lyle was that, Lyle's music is incredibly eclectic, and
yes.
and some of his music's country. Mm-hmm. But on some of the country stuff, I don't play country drum parts. I try. He likes it that I try to think outside the box and come up with things that are different. Mm-hmm. And I think with all the other artists that I work with, the first thing that would come to mind, the first thing I would think is like, okay, what would a normal drum part be on this? And I would go, okay, well, I'm not doing that. And I'll try to think of something else. I mean, and over my career, I have been inspired by so many different players. I mean, the list goes on forever, and I know that they're your favorites as well. But one of the most amazing people is Manu Katché. Manu has a way of playing drums. He plays the negative of the positive. In other words, if you look at a black and white picture, and then you see it in its normal exposure, and then you look at the negative of that black and white picture. Well, Manu plays that. Everybody else plays the black and white photo. He plays the other part. Like if you listen to the Robbie Robertson album that he played on, or any of the Sting records, he finds these parts that are not normal drum parts, but they groove so heavily. So that when I heard him, I went, okay, well, there you go. There's a whole other way out there. You don't have to play 2 and 4.
Interesting.
So I think I tried. If there was conscious efforts, it was a conscious effort to try to do something that was unique and that wasn't kind of normal. I mean, some songs you have to play things that are normal. If it's a blues song or if it's a real strict country song, that's what's needed and wanted. But I would try to do something that was different.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Until I was told not to.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that makes sense. We're going to take a minute out here, and we're going to come back, and I'm going to ask you about something that was a little different. But for a moment, we're going to talk about, I'm going to give a shameless plug to my website, robinflansdrummerinterviews.com, where I have classic interviews with some of maybe one or two of your influences, Jeff Porcaro, Carlos Vega, Larry London, Ed Shaughnessy, some of the old guard who, some of my favorite drummers, and their audio interviews, uncut. And I suggest to some of you listeners, all of you listeners, to take a look at that website. There's some great interviews. You will be shocked at the difference between listening to these wonderful drummers speak as opposed to reading their interviews in black and white. You'll hear them laugh. You'll hear them, maybe curse. You'll hear them breathe. You'll hear them talk. It's just a whole different experience from reading the cut interview, and it's really an experience. I've often said if I could bottle Jeff Porcaro's laugh, I'd make $1 billion. And that's at www.robinflansdrummerinterviews.com, and check them out. And that's all I have to say about that. And coming back to Russ, and I wanted to ask you about Jackson Browne's Running on Empty.
Okay.
That was first of all, I gotta ask about the cover shot of the album. I mean, do you have that framed on your wall?
I don't, but there's enough pictures of it around.
Oh, you should. What an ethereal, beautiful shot of a drum set that, of course, must be yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's what a great picture that is. So that's a different kind of live album, from what I can. And you played. According to the credits, you played box on that album.
Yes, a tape box, a couple tape boxes, actually.
Uh-huh. So, tell me.
We were recording, I'm trying to think of what song it was, but we were recording in our bus, in the back of the bus, and I put one tape box, empty, up against the kind of floorboard and taped a foot pedal to it. And I had another one on my lap and just played brushes on top of it, I believe.
And what made...
We recorded it driving down the road.
What prompted that thought process?
Well, I couldn't fit a drum set in there.
Okay. So that was through the whole song.
Yeah, I had done it before too. I'd used that before on a song of James Taylor's called "Traffic Jam." So
interesting.
Yeah.
Very.
It's a nice percussive sound, you know. So they're actually making things like that now as percussion instruments. They're hollow boxes with a hole in the bottom. It's kind of like it's the same concept as a cajon, but you put it in a snare drum stand, and you can play brushes on it, and you can have a textured surface, and so it sounds very much like a snare drum and has a thunk when you hit it.
Very cool. I love that.
You don't happen to know the name of the company that's manufacturing that, do you, Russ? I'm just curious.
No, but I will. I'll find out for you.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, okay. So we've talked about some of my favorite artists. Who have been some of your favorite artists to work with, and why?
Okay. Well, everyone, I mean, for me, it's hard because I've been so fortunate to work with so many great people. So everyone that we've already talked about has to be on the list.
Of course.
But some that we haven't talked to,
Yes.
some that we haven't talked about. I had the great fortune of being able to work with Steve Winwood.
Oh.
And I recorded on one album of his called Refugees of the Heart, and I did 2 tours with him.
Yes.
And Steve Winwood is just the best band leader in the world, and he's such a fine musician. He can play anything, and he plays great drums, and of course, you know, what a great keyboard player he is. He's an amazing guitar player, and he's an impeccable singer. And being on stage with him and being able to...
What makes him a great band leader? What makes him a great band leader?
Well, if you're going to play with Steve Winwood, when you're sitting in your wherever your position is, and he walks on the stage, you have to rise up to his level, or you're dead.
Mm.
You have to. He just raises the bar just by his presence, and it just happens to you. It's not even conscious. You play above your head.
Mm.
And he did it to me every night. You know, I enjoy doing those shows so much. I remember we did a couple nights at the Royal Albert Hall that were some of my most favorite gigs in the world. And there's video of it somewhere. And every time I see it, I go, God, I can't believe I was playing that good then.
Wow. Nice. Okay. All right.
So Steve Winwood for sure, and I have to tell you, working with Lyle Lovett for the past 13 years has been an absolute privilege. He is such a good friend, and he's so unique.
Yes.
His writing style and his musical style, and Lyle is an amazing performer. I mean, he's an artist, yes. He's a poet, yes. He's a musician, yes. But he is a consummate performer. He knows exactly what to do with an audience. And he makes them laugh, he makes them cry, and he has them in the palm of his hand. And it's just a pleasure to be on stage with him. And you know, I've done all but maybe 2 records of his, maybe 2 or 3, and you know, I've just thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, I've worked with Lyle longer than I've worked with anyone.
That's interesting.
Longer than I worked with James, longer than I worked with Jackson, longer than I worked with Brenda.
Wow.
And so he is, not only is he a dear friend, but I love playing his music, and we continue to do it.
So how
I'll be out with him this summer with the large band for 2 or 3 months.
So how creative is recording with him?
It's the same thing. Like I told you before, I have to really think outside the box because I'll tell you a story. We were doing a song once. Again, I forget what song it was, but it's kind of like a regular country beat to it, you know. And I'm playing kind of normal, and he stopped me and he goes, "Russ, what are you playing that's going tick 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 tick?" And I went, "A hi-hat?" He said, "Yeah, don't play that." And then I realized in that moment, you know, Lyle's guitar playing style, he plays with metal finger picks. And he has a very subdivided guitar style. So there's lots of subdivisions in his part. And he was hearing the flams between my hi-hat and his guitar. And it was throwing him. So I developed a way of like taking half of the hi-hat beats out and just shadowing them on the snare drum. Wow. You know, with my left hand. And as soon as I started playing that, he went, "Okay, that's much better." So almost all of the kind of country or slight rock things that I do with him, I do it that way. I don't play normal hi-hat parts. I play half of it.
Interesting. Wow. Had to change your
whole
playing.
So and he always encourages me to play something weird. he prefers it. You know, he prefers it to be a unique part. That's challenging and wonderful for me because it makes me work a little harder on it.
He's not only eclectic but a little eccentric. Yeah,
he is.
Yeah,
he definitely is, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I just recently saw him in one of those just story and song shows with Vince Gill, where he just does the sitting on a stool, playing acoustic without a band. Yeah. But it was just phenomenal. I mean, It was.
Yeah, he just started doing those with Vince. I haven't seen that show, but he does it with Robert Earl Keen, and he also does it with John Hyatt, and they're wonderful shows.
Oh my God! With the one with Vince was just I love Vince too, so it was just it was just great. It was just phenomenal. But so you recently had a huge, big change in your life with equipment. Do tell. Do tell.
Okay, well, I, after 40-some years, I have decided to not play Yamaha drums, and I'm now playing DW drums.
Whoa.
That's the change.
40-some-odd years. Whoa.
Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate or what?
I can. I can, and it's very simple. I was so fortunate to have been mentored by a wonderful Japanese man named Hagi Wara, and he provided me with amazing instruments at a time in my career that changed the way that I played and changed everything for me. He was incredibly generous, and he was definitely a mentor. And everyone that I've worked with at Yamaha over the years has been very supportive, and they've all been wonderful people. It's sometimes you just reach a point, like in any relationship, where something needs to change. And for me, I had so many friends that were telling me, "Have you ever met John Good? Do you know John? Have you ever met him?" And I said, "No, I never have, but I have a lot of respect for him because I know so many of my friends, so many of my drummer friends play DW, and they love them, and the drums are everywhere." So I finally got a chance to meet him, and he is one of the specialist people in the world. He's so knowledgeable about wood, and he's so passionate about the drums that he builds that I had to get next to some of that, and I've learned things from John in the month and a half or 2 months that we have been working together that I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't know these things.
I know.
He has educated me to like so many things about drums and why they sound the way that they sound and how they can be different. And it's just fascinating to me. So it's just like an artist will change the band as they go to reinvent themselves. I mean, for me, I felt it was time to change the equipment that I was playing, and so now I'm playing DW, and so looking forward to it. And there's some big surprises that I can't mention at the moment that will be coming up pertaining to DW that will be coming up in the future, but I can't mention anything about it right now. That's some stuff that John and I have been working on that is pretty exciting. So,
well, poop.
There you go.
Poop!
Well, that only means that Russ will have to come back and tell you when that happens.
Okay.
Right?
Are you going to do that?
Oh, I'll come back anytime, Robin.
Okay. And so what can you tell me? Can you tell me what your drum sets are going to be, or what?
Yeah. I have two sets. I have two sets now that have been completed. One is a set that I'll mainly use in Los Angeles and in the studio, and another set was sent to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, to be stored with Lyle's equipment that I'll be using this summer, and I'll be using with Lyle. And they're both different. The configuration is the same, but different materials. And some of that I can't mention right now. But the first time I'll tell you a story. The first time I used the first kit, which is staying in Los Angeles, was about 2 weeks ago, and it was for a session for Harry Shearer. Do you know who Harry Shearer is?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, and Harry Shearer is doing a Derek Smalls record. Derek Smalls is the bass player in Spinal Tap, his character in Spinal Tap. And I was in that movie. I played one of the drummers, Stumpy Joe Childs, and so was my friend Danny Korchmark. He was Ronnie Pudding in the Thamesmen. So Danny and I were asked to come and play on this session. It's a song of Harry's, and out of the box, set this kit up, didn't tune it. All I did was have a hole cut in the front of the kick drum, so that Ed Cherney could get a microphone in it. And I sat down and played these drums, and no one could believe that these drums were out of the box.
Wow.
I mean, the toms were completely in tune. The gradation was absolutely perfect. Not one tom rang more than the next. It was absolutely identical. The kick drum was it's like a drum when you hit it, you kind of go, oh, well, that's what a kick drum's supposed to sound like. And one of the differences is that these kick drums are 23 inches that John made for me, and it's an amazing difference. I mean, it's not 24 and it's not 22, but it's 23.
So it's a 23-inch bass drum head, and
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I guess DW or Remo's making the heads, or Aquarian, or something.
Actually, Remo makes them.
Really? So that's going to be a thing, I guess, that you can buy now.
You can definitely order them. I think the first one he made was for Neil Peart, I think.
Oh, okay.
So, and it's a size that's really working. So, but anyway, even Ed Cherney, he said after we did the drum check and we recorded, he goes, "So you didn't tune these? These are just out." I said, "These are out of the box. I just sat them up." And he went, "Okay, well, that's," he goes, "Oh, that's one of the best drum sounds I've ever heard." So, and Harry was everyone was going crazy. So,
wow.
I mean, that's the kind of quality and stuff that I'm not saying any other drum company doesn't do the same thing, but I'm so excited to play these drums. So,
well,
and that's what it is for me. It's just a bit of a change, but it's one that I'm very excited about, and John's become a good friend, and I'm very excited about the stuff that we'll do in the future. Well,
John's a great guy, and I can see the two of you being together. So I'm sure it's a match made in heaven. I'm glad to. Well, I feel incredibly fortunate. I mean, this is a man who's so influential in the business and very busy. And it's hard for me to believe he takes my calls. And he'll chat with me for a half hour on the phone, and I got because I know how busy he is. Well, I can definitely see it. So that's a great thing. I'm glad.
Russ,
glad.
Can I just ask him a question?
If
you don't mind, Russ.
Sure.
I just had an odd question, but what is the strangest, I guess, implement you've ever had to play drums with on a session or live, other than sticks or brushes? Have there been anything?
I'm sorry. Ask me one more time.
Well, in other words, like instead of using sticks or brushes, maybe on a recording session or to get a particular sound, I'm just curious. Like, what is the oddest things you've had to put in your hands to play drums to get a particular track or a sound for a song?
The oddest.
Well, gosh. Yeah, I've heard guys like saying like wooden spoons and spatulas and all kinds of stuff, and you as a
I know for sure on a Crosby Nash song somewhere, I took a handful of change and just let it fall over my drum kit for the beginning of a song.
Really?
Yeah, started just on the cymbals on the drums, and it just fell down everywhere. And then I did something similar to that on an album of Lyle's on a song.
Wow.
Okay. I kind of took a bunch of my percussion stuff, little things, and just kind of let them fall all over the drums, and tambourines, clanging things, shakers, and it just was a cacophony of audio.
Yeah, and based on that, you were making the comment about thinking out of the box is one of your tools. I mean, that's one of the things that people love about your playing. But do you ever have to incorporate percussion into a track that you're playing drums with? I mean, I don't know if it's a conga or bongo, and you'd have to put that on your kit to play as well. Or
no, I have for sure. Like when I toured with James Taylor, the last time I toured with him in his touring band was in 2002, 2003. My drum seat was a cajon. Mm-hmm. And I played cajon on 3 or 4 songs.
Oh, wow.
In other words, I'd play cajon with my hands, but I'd play hi-hat and play kick drum as well. So.
Okay. And my last...
I could just pick up a stick and play a little drum fill if I had to, but it was a subtler part, right?
Cool. All right. And my last thing, and then I'll turn you back over here. But years ago, I had seen a live broadcast. I think it might have been SNL, and you were on there with James Taylor, and you guys were playing "Shower the People," and there seemed to be a reel-to-reel tape recorder off to the side. And I'm just curious as to what were you getting to sync up to? I assume there were vocals on that recording. It seemed to only play in the choruses. You know what?
If usually there would be a cowbell click or something that the front of house wouldn't hear.
Okay.
But I think James developed that when he was doing this. I think he was doing some shows by himself, and he would just it was kind of like a part of the show. The 2-track would be lit.
Right.
And it would just be sitting there, and it would start, and then he would sing along with it. But I don't know if he was hearing any kind of click. Sometimes we would just wing that stuff.
Oh, it was just spot on. I was just amazed to be doing that kind of a thing live. But yeah, I was always curious as to how you got the reference for time. Okay, cool. I'm satisfied. You're a witness.
So any other? I know you said you're going out with Lyle this summer. Are there any other recordings on the books or things that you can current events? Because I know we've talked a lot about the past, so I don't want everyone to think I'm just a past talker about her.
No, not at all. But I'm starting with Lyle July 12th, a large band tour that goes to almost the end of September. And I was just down in Los Angeles for all of last month, really, writing with C.J. Vanston and Danny Korchmar. I wrote a couple songs and did that session for Harry. And, so I'm going back down in June to do some more work and some more writing and just kind of, just staying busy until I go on the road with Lyle. That's my main gig for the moment. And who knows, there might be some more of these shows with James, with his smaller group, where I'll play some kind of augmented percussion kit. So looking forward to that as well.
Nice. Well, we've kept you a long time, but I'm gonna make you come back and be subject to my scrutiny again. And I hope I haven't made you angry, Robin. And I hope that I was able to answer some of your questions, to your satisfaction.
I have to just say this has been the best 6 minutes of our life.
Oh, I hope you don't think I'm angry at you. I just,
That was actually great. When she got off the phone, they go, "What are you doing?" Guys,
no,
it's on time.
He
it's great.
means when I called him the pain in the what. But no, it's just because, there are people like you, very few like you, who won't sing their own praises. And it's difficult sometimes to get, someone like you to really talk about the contributions that you make. And but I'm going to still work on it for next time.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna bone up. I'm gonna bone up. So I'm ready.
Next time I'm going to make you listen. Make you how? I don't know, but I'm going to send you links to your songs.
Take some time and listen to my discography a little bit before I talk to you next time.
But I feel so honored that you joined us today, and I thank you so much, and I thank everybody for tuning in. And just next week, I just want to let everybody know on the 10th at 2 Pacific Standard Time, we're going to be talking to Pat Petrillo. And I hope everyone will join us then. And everyone, as we sign off today, I hope everyone will stick around for a second and take a listen to a friend and great artist.
But first, we should rally our studio audience to give a round of applause.
Okay, first. Okay, yay.
At least I think so.
Yes. And And everyone, stick around. Listen to a moment of great artist and friend Jerry Mendelsohn. And thank you again, Russ.
And also,
Kunkel.
just real quick with Russ. No, I was saying I wanted to get his.
I
address,
will.
So if you
I
got
will.
a hang for
I will get.
right.
No, I'll get the address on, on
perfect,
Facebook.
perfect. And thank you for that very nice endorsement verbally for the EPAD thing, Russ. Very much appreciated.
My pleasure, Ed. I'm looking forward to trying it out.
All right. Well, I hope we get to do this again fairly soon with all the secret information.
Me too. Looking forward to it.
All right. Okay.
Okay, you guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Russ.
Okay, talk to you soon, Robin.
Yes.
She said, a penny for your thoughts. I said, honey, you ain't rich enough for that. If I tell you what I'm really thinking, you'll be broke in 7 seconds flat. Laughing, she said, try me. Go on and run it by me. You never know what you might find. Darling, secrets are for keeping. My love is the leading kind. There's no solution. There's no saving grace. When a heart becomes a tear becomes a memory, and that memory disappears without a trace. Then she moved a little closer as the evening breeze went strolling through her hair. My heart was in my throat, and I could taste her sweet breath